So Google Forms, what's kind of cool about Google Forms is that you've got so many different ways to use it. So it can be something like this where you've got a sign-in. We've all used this sort of thing. Right now, this one is collecting email addresses because it's a great way for me to have everything at once, and I know what information I want back. So when you're creating a form and it's collecting data for you, you need to have what data you want to collect in mind from the beginning. What is it? What is the end result that you're wanting? So for quizzes, obviously, that's a percentage of how many things that they got correct, or the thinking or processing behind whether or not they understood a concept a lot of times. But it's also a great way of just getting information and data back as well from parents and students. So in this case, I made sure that my first name and last name was on here, even though your email address would be there as well. If you are going to have students give you information that you want back from them specifically, and you want to be grading based off of that, even at a pass-fail, you want to make sure their names are somewhere associated, okay? Then here we had campus. This is called a drop-down. This one is a short answer, okay? When I put things in here, what's nice is that it's going to automatically assume that that's a short answer by what I put in here. Not all of them are 100%, but that kind of makes it nice. You've got a lot of opportunity to change some really cool options in here. I just want you to see one already done so you can kind of see what that looks like. This one is just a drop down, and this one's a drop down. You can see that I have a duplicate option, I can delete, and I can hit required. And then almost all of them are going to have a 3 dot for more options to show a description. Go to a section based on an answer. I don't have any new sections on here, or to shuffle the option order. So then this is going to shuffle, okay? That's what that one is right there. If you want to shuffle the whole thing, that's going to be up in these settings up here, which we'll get to. Okay, you're going to have this little floating toolbar off to the side for add question, to import questions, to add a title and description, to add images, add video, and add sections. Okay, so that's where we're going to kind of play with today. And we'll do that on a brand new one, but I just want you to see what this looks like with responses. So with responses, I can come in and get a summary, I can go question by question, and I can go by an individual at a time. I can print them, I can turn responses off at a certain time. I also can export and create a spreadsheet, which makes it a little bit easier to read everything at once. I can also get an email notification for each new response. I can select where I want that response to go. I can download them. I can unlink, once I've gotten my spreadsheet on there, I can unlink my form from a spreadsheet and create a new spreadsheet. So if I wanted to use this the first 6 weeks and the second 6 weeks and the third 6 weeks, but I wanted new data each time without having to make a new form, I could just unlink it from my spreadsheet or put it into a new tab. So there's some new options here. There's great options here. You can also do delete all responses, and that's going to get rid of everything in here and start over from scratch. Okay, obviously I don't want to do this on this one because you guys would like your credit, I think. So we're going to create one from scratch. You can right click or go to new, and it's going to be in the more options under the little purple guy right here. You can create a blank form or one from a template. Okay, I want to do a template for the first time just so you can see what the templates look like. So they've got a blank quiz, exit tickets, assessments, worksheets, which is one of the things we're going to look at, course evaluation, contact information, finding a time. So this would be great for scheduling conferences, things like that, RSVP, party invite, t-shirt sign up, event or registration. You've got all kinds of options, right? So then once you look through and find the template that you're looking for, or if this doesn't meet your needs, then you can select it and go from there. So this time I'm going to choose the worksheet one because I think that's going to meet our needs the best right now. So then it's going to give you just the basic pieces in here. So I can come in and change my worksheet title. And so this might be what, our math page 213, right? And I may want this text and I may not want this text. So right now I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm going to need to make sure that I put the title up here. If I was on a blank one, it would just take whatever I put in there the first time, but this time I'm going to actually have to change it because it has already been named. Now, it already has name and email in it, so that's kind of already done for you. Here is where I would put my worksheet. Okay, so then I can come in and change my picture, and I can upload, and we'll just use one of those that we did before. Let's see, we'll do this one right here. So now I have my worksheet in there, okay? And so this one's not really a question, so this would be a short answer. So I would want to choose my paragraph short answer, and kids could type into this area, okay? And they would be able to see while they were typing into this area. Now, the other thing is I might say, well, for kiddos who didn't quite understand it, the next thing I might want to do is give them more directions, or maybe I want to do a video on author's purpose. Oops, you're actually typing in there. And I would suggest actually watching it, but we're just playing with the first one that comes up for this purpose for right now. Okay, so I might put on here, watch the video about author's purpose. Okay, and I don't need all of that. Now, having all of this on one page can sometimes be kind of crazy. So in this case, I'm going to actually want a new section. And that is going to, I'm going to copy that and put it over here. That's going to make sure that there is a break in between the first activity and the second activity. Okay, so the first activity is this, which really makes no sense that I named it math page and then put it author's purpose page in there. But then I've got my video, and then I can come in and ask questions that relate back to this as well. And so you can see that I'm going back and forth between asking questions, response types, stimulus types, all within the same form, which makes it into a full lesson instead of just the quizzes, okay? So a few other things that you can look at is obviously any of the customization. You can put different images in the top, colors, fonts. Just be careful that you do want it to be readable. You can preview what it's going to look like for students, and then we get to settings. Now, for our purposes right now, it all depends on how accessible do you want this. If you want everything to always be restricted to an HEB person, then if parents are struggling with the different accounts in Google, this would be a frustration point. So if it's becoming a frustration point, I would take that off and that they don't have to be signed in. They don't see the results anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You can collect email addresses if you would like to. Otherwise, I would just put kids' names in there. If you want them to be able to come back and redo the assignment another time and actually get a chance to resubmit, you have to actually give that as an option. You've got presentation over to the side. You can shuffle the question order here. Remember when we were over in this area, to shuffle the questions here, you actually have to do it on the question, okay? This is going to do the questions being shuffled all together, okay? depending on your setting, if we were in a school setting or whatever, a lot of times I use the show link to submit another response. You probably don't need that now. They're not going to go in it over and over again unless you're using it as a flashcard or a way for them to practice facts or something like that, where they do want to access vocabulary over a period of time, okay, and they want to keep doing it. Confirmation message, you can type anything in here, okay? So otherwise it's just going to say your response has been recorded, but you can put anything in there. If you don't hit save, none of these things will save, so you don't want to click out like I did. If you want to save those things, make sure that you're hitting save. It does not auto-save inside the menu items. Quizzes. To turn it on, you just go to quizzes. The locked mode won't work outside of our environment at school, but if you were at school, you could turn this on, and basically as soon as they click on the quiz, they can't get out of it again. So that's what it does for locked mode. You can release the grade immediately or later after a manual review. If you were doing an actual assignment, you'd want to manual review because they're going to be doing a writing assignment and you want to read that before they see it. But then otherwise they can see, you can choose what they can see, whether they see missed questions or correct answers, point values, any of that stuff can be turned on and off at this stage. So once I do that, you'll notice that it changes a little bit about my questions. So here I've got my questions, and the first thing I want to make sure that I do is the answer key. I want to select what option is correct. If I have multiple options, I can select multiple options, and I can also give feedback for incorrect answers and correct answers, or direct them to sources that help them if they need to come back to it and see it again. So if they got it incorrect, you could have them watch the video again. Things like that are all available in the feedback area, so then you can cancel that. So then once you've done that and you hit done, then it's going to show you that you've given the correct answers for it, okay? Right now it's on 20 points. I forgot about points. Points are right here, and you can make that 0. You can make it however you want to. David, yes. If you shuffle the questions, each student would give them questions in a different order. Now, on this example, that's not a great example for shuffling because there's only one question per each section. But if I had 5 or 6 questions in this one, then it would just do that section as a shuffle. They would do this section as a shuffle. They would stay in the section. So, good question. All right, once I'm done with that, then the other thing you can do, especially if you're going to do text, is a response validation. This is now new options in that dropdown. When I hit response validations, I can select exactly, select at most, select at least. I can do a number. I can do error text. So I've had people use that, and they've used it as a password or different things to be able to get new information. And so there's really a lot of things you can do with that response validation, but it is so not necessary. So I would only do that if you really needed additional feedback in, you know, more than was given here. So you've got that there. All right, so more options, because, you know, we didn't have enough options already. Up here, you have more. You can make a copy by going to the little 3 dots next to your person. You can make a copy of it, which means you can have a collaborator and say your whole team is going to do this. You want everyone's everyone to post it in their classroom or send it to the parents, but you don't want everyone's information and responses on your response tab. You can add collaborators and tell them to make a copy. Same thing for the curriculum. They're making some quizzes for you already. You're going to also want to make a copy. This is going to be in the instructional technology page for all of the Google stuff. So if you do not remember that, then just remember that you can go to that page for more. You can obviously get rid of it altogether. You can print it out if you have to. And then if you're looking for preferences and add-ons, preferences are going to be for everything you create from here on. So if you want to always make a default quiz value of 5 points, you can. 20 points, you can. You can just all of a sudden have all of your questions required every single time, which means they cannot submit unless they've answered every single question for you. You can collect email addresses on everything you ever send ever, which means that because these are defaulted and you save it this way, every single form you create from this point forward would have these settings because they're default settings for the whole program versus the ones that are right here are just for this form. So I hope that's not too confusing. You have add-ons and things like that. If you are one of those people who loves them, it's a little puzzle piece that lives on this side right here. This guy is all gone. But you do have email notifications for Google Forms. You have form publishers. So there is, if you're collecting data for something to create a response, those can be some really cool ones to get started with. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it just because we've already gone over a lot of stuff today. We've learned a lot of new things. But as we kind of go forward, you might need a few new tricks up your sleeve as you go on. So I wanted to give you something in the coming weeks to also look forward to as well. So then all that, we're ready to send. Now, I have it automatically collecting people's email addresses, but you could turn that on or off in here as well. I do not suggest using the email option. I would always create a link by clicking the link option and shorten it because the other one is super long, okay? If you also need a shortener, you can always use a bit.ly. And if you just type in bit.ly, it looks like this. And I can copy and paste my form here, and it will shorten it to something shorter. Now, it's not incredibly shorter, but it's a few shorter. Everything that is in a link like this is going to be case sensitive. So just make sure that when you are working on links and they have cases like that, it's not like an email address that isn't case sensitive. It will be case sensitive, but then you can copy that and send that on. And so that's probably the preferred method for sending a form, because then this makes sure that your form is not being sent on with an edit code. Notice up here, it goes to an edit. They would get this screen, which means they sees all the responses and everything. So making sure. Okay. So then from there, the other thing you can do as well, see how this is a full section and it ends here? I can duplicate my sessions and I can have a whole bunch of sections that this can go into. Obviously, this is just going to be one section, but the other thing that we could do is say on this first page, they've done all of this work and then they answer the question about all of that, and then we realize they did not get it at all. You can set it up so that it will take them somewhere else based on the answer that they give you. So let's see if it's on here. It's down here, isn't it? So after section 1, it's automatically going to go, sorry, that was strange, down to the next section, right? But if you want them to go somewhere specific, you can choose where it goes. And then you can also choose that based off of here as well, okay? And so I'm trying to find a good example of that because, let's see, maybe I need to use another one here. So not correct. All right, and so when I put my answer key in here and I say this one is the correct one, I can put any of those pieces in. There we go. Then I can go to a section based on that answer. And so if they got This one, the not correct, I might want them to go to watch the video. If they get it correct, I might want them to just go ahead and submit their form. So then it's going to give them different options based off of what they need to do to be more successful, if that makes sense. So these can get kind of complicated if you want them to be complicated. Otherwise, you can just stick with questions and answers. Okay, so don't get too overwhelmed by it, but I know everybody's kind of at different levels, and I wanted you kind of to see some of the cool things that it could do, especially being able to do one full thing instead of having, okay, I need you to read this thing, I need you to then watch this video, and then I need you to, and we start going down the line and it's like 5 different things. Well, I can give one link to a form and have them do everything that I want them to look at. And so that might be a way of kind of not sending a million emails of all of the things that you're going to post on Sunday for them to start working on. So just a kind of way of looking at it creatively and start looking at how you want to start putting your lessons together. All right, I am going to stop my recording and then we can do questions.